Hello! My name is Stormy. This is my channel, Stormy Draws, where, as the header image says, I draw sometimes. I made this channel for the sole purpose of making this video, so without further ado, let me introduce you to the topic. Here's a fact about me that is crucial for you to know. Everybody knows this about me. I will not shut up about it. If you know me, there is maybe one thing I love just so much. And you may be like, what is it? Is it Dark Souls? Yes, but that's not the topic of the video. Is it JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Also yes, another good guess. Again, not the topic of this video. Is it Mario Kart? No, you know what, that's a good guess, No, it's Rhythm Heaven. I love Rhythm Heaven more than I love life itself, I think. I think it's appropriate for me to say that at this point. Rhythm Heaven has been a big part of my life for the past, 6 or 7 years, I think. It all started with Megamix, and then spiraled from there. I am stuck in this, well, I was gonna say hell, but it is Rhythm Heaven. I am stuck in this heaven, and I cannot leave, and I will never leave. And you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. Oh, and I also like Pokemon. That's, another thing about me, is I also really like Pokemon. So I decided, hey, I'm just gonna combine these two things that I really like. That's the video. If you read the title, you know what's going on. We're doing Rhythm Heaven Pokemon. I feel as though Pokemon needs little introduction since it's the most popular franchise on Earth. But Rhythm Heaven, that's a little bit lesser known. So I'll give you a brief summary on what Rhythm Heaven is, but let's be honest. If you clicked on this video, then you're probably familiar with, the Rhythm Gospel. Rhythm Heaven is a series of games where you hone your rhythm by playing mini-games. And sometimes long games. It's all about pressing A or tapping your DS stylus to catchy tunes. Besides the songs and the simple gameplay, a lot of the charm comes from the vast array of characters you meet and play as throughout the game. And that's what we're here to focus on today. Before we begin, I want to make a couple of notes. Number 1, I have never designed a Fakemon in my life. Okay, well that's not entirely true, but I don't think drawing a basketball with legs when I was 7 counts as a Fakemon. And number 2, while I will be trying to imitate the Pokemon art style, I admit, it will not be perfect. My main goal is just to put the idea to paper and, hopefully make it coherent. So as we begin, let me ask you one question. When you think of the mascot from Rhythm Heaven, who do you think of? Tibby? The frog from Frog Hop? This little blob of cum? Personally, I think of Barista. Barista is a little white dog with headphones that runs a cafe in each of the Rhythm Heaven games. The cafe acts as a sort of break room from the minigames, so the barista is always ready to have a friendly chat with the player during their downtime. Personally, I think that Barista is one of the more fleshed out characters in the series, which made planning his Pokemon concept extremely easy. I wanted to make a little dog Pokemon that's very friendly and curious about the world around it, and especially interested in human music. With these ideas in mind, I began designing the Pokemon. I began by drawing a little dog. I was basing it loosely on pictures of Maltese dogs that I had pulled up on the side. I kept the limbs chunky and almost bear cub-like to translate to the boxy proportions that Barista has in canon. It was also very important to me that, while designing the headphones, I made them more animalistic. Personally, what takes away from a Pokemon design for me is if it has too many human items or characteristics. If a Pokemon holds an item that is something in nature, like a leek or an entire koala, I'm okay with that. Or if it does have human items, it's thematically important to the Pokemon, like Alakazam and his spoons. But sometimes a Pokemon just feels off to me, I don't know why Machop has a fucking belt. I don't know why he has a belt. It looks really weird to me recently. I've been like, hey, why do they have this belt? Is this belt part of their person? Where did they get this? So for Barista's headphones, I tried shaping them more like dog ears, and then fleshing them out from there. I gave it a pattern on the back that looked kind of like those swirly coffee art things that I see online sometimes. I wanted to give a little nod to him being a barista, plus it gave some extra color on the back, which is a plus. Okay, so now that this drawing is done, I'm putting it in the fucking garbage. It's trash. It's bad. It looks so horrible. The head and the eyes are way too small. the feet look terrible and the shading looks nothing like the Pokemon art style. And I was gonna keep it like this for the sake of saving time. But then, he came along. So here's a little behind the scenes information for you guys. When I started this project, I only had 3 Pokemon lines in mind. While I was finishing up all the drawings, a new Pokemon came to mind and I began working on it. Well, that little guy turned out so perfect that I had to go back and update every single one of my previous designs to match the quality of my new Mon. This little creature single-handedly saved all of you from looking at my horrible first drafts of these Pokemon. All hail my favorite little boy. So for the second pass, I chunked out all of the proportions. Bigger head, thicker body, the headphones got bigger, and I added some fur to the chest so it wouldn't look so flat. I also changed the eyes to look more in line with other dog Pokemon, even if it did ruin my initial concept of making the eyes look like the ones that Barista has in canon. You know, like the flat, dead, black, beady eyes. A running idea I had with this Pokemon was what typing it was going to be. I had an idea of making it a psychic type so that it could telepathically talk with its trainer, like how Barista talks to the player in canon. I ended up scrapping this idea and instead replacing it with an ability that was similar to type Null. Pokemon Sword and Shield introduced the high-tech earbuds, which I thought would be a way to change the background music, similar to what you can do in Mario Odyssey. But Pokemon is lame as shit. So in my hypothetical game, you would change the music and the Barista's type would change according to what song was playing. Overall, the second pass turned out miles better than the first, and with that, our first Rhythmon is complete. Mellotees, the friendly dog Pokemon. Mellotees are an extremely social species of Pokemon that are perfect for new and veteran trainers alike. This Pokemon has a passion for human culture, especially music. When listening to music, this Pokemon is known to change types depending on the genre. And there you go. Our first little guy is complete. Since Mellotees was a single-stage Pokemon, I decided to try my hand at designing a 3-stage evolution next. Our next Pokemon will be based on the Quicknibble, the Pawsgill, and the 3 fish from Catch of the Day. In this minigame, you play as a fisherwoman named Ann Glur, as you catch 3 fish to a beat. Personally, I think it's like one of the most mid minigames in all of Rhythm Heaven, but I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, they're just giving me free designs right here. Immediately, I knew what my concept would be going into these designs. I wanted to portray a line of trouble-making gluttonous fish. I started out by designing the final evolution first. I figured that designing the Pokemon based off of 3 fish might be the hardest, since it was big, it has a lot more details than the other 2, and also, frankly, I'm not great at drawing fish. And while designing it was a little bit tricky, it was nothing compared to the little fucker you will see later. The big thing I wanted to focus on with this guy was his face, since it's already so distinctive in Rhythm Heaven. The big lips, the large upper brow, and its sick eyeliner that I never actually noticed until I was designing the Pokemon. All 3 of these things were super important in my process. I was having trouble on what to do with the lips, so I made them part of its face as if the whole thing was like plating on armor. This ended up being a crucial part of the fish designs. It was something that tied them all together into a more cohesive evolution line. I don't have much to say about Pawsgill. It was by far the easiest Pokemon to design out of all the Mons you'll see today. It was already so solid in my mind when I put it to paper. I knew it had to have wide, doofy eyes that looked both empty and also a little bit anxious. It has lips similar to the final evolution, and also has big eyebrows to once again solidify that all of these designs are part of the same evolution line. I love them so much. It's one of my favorites, and genuinely, I want like 20 of them. Now, don't get me started on this little bitch. This motherfucker. I had no idea what I was doing with them, and I feel like you could see that as I struggled to design them. The Quicknibble is already such a simple design, and I did not know what to do with them. The only guidelines I had were the lip and eyebrow thing that I had done with the other 2. Even the colors were a nightmare, and honestly, I think it was my biggest failure with this line. The colors are just all so different from each other. I think the Quicknibble and the Pawsgill look similar enough to each other, with their similar warm color schemes, but 3 fish? How the hell am I supposed to make these 3, cohesive, when 3 fish is blue and the other 2 are predominantly warm colors? I went back and forth on this for a while, as you'll see. So I ended up with these 3, but just like the barista, I thought of him and began redrawing these guys. Okay, so for the quick nibble, I spent time really trying to solidify the shape I was going for. I decided to give him a bigger gut since my initial concept was making a gluttonous fish, and the beta design didn't even touch that concept at all. So now, he's chunky and he's adorable. I struggled once again on what to do with the lips. I tried redrawing the lips from the beta design, but I hated how it looked. So to match the roundness of the gut, I gave this guy round lips and a cute little smile. I kept most of the colors the same from the first draft. I changed the underfin to blue since the body was predominantly warm colors, and I just wanted a little splash of color down there. Also, shout out to Tentacruel for teaching me how to color in orbs. Those orbs on Tentacruel's head, ripped it off, put it on the stomach of this fucker. Thank you. Love you, Tentacruel. Nibbling, the gluttonous Pokemon. For such a tiny fish, this Pokemon has a big appetite. They delight in stealing bait right off the hooks of fishing rods. The danger of getting caught thrills them, as if it were a game. Overall, I'm super happy with the quick nibble now. It's very cute, and it actually looks a bit more like a Pokemon to me. I'm sorry for saying I ever hated you, Quick Nibble. You're pretty cool after all. Moving on. I don't have much to say about Pawsgill since I didn't actually change it much at all. I thought its shape and face were perfect already, so I kept them the same. The only thing I changed was the color on its tummy, and I don't really like that change all that much, but I wanted to pull more blue into the design to make it tie in better with 3Fish. In the end, I settled with a dark blue, and I just moved on. Pawsgill, the cautious Pokemon. After seeing many of its friends reeled in by fishermen, this Pokemon has adapted a propensity for avoiding humans. Without its main food source of bait, the Pawsgill has to rely on less satisfying meals to survive. And there you go. It's Pawsgill. He's simple, he's easy, he's still cute. I love his doofy little face. So, 3Fish. It's the same as Pawsgill. I think I did a pretty good job with the original, so I didn't change anything. Just spruced it up a little with a different coloring technique. The hardest part about making this guy was actually choosing what to name him. Unlike Pawsgill, I don't think 3Fish really suits the Pokemon naming scheme. Plus, let's be honest, I love puns. If I can't name a Pokemon a pun, then like what's the fucking point? So, another look behind the scenes, this project has taken me months, like half a year, and I still do not have a name for this guy. There is nothing I can do. I cannot think of a single name. The only 2 names I thought of were Gluttonfish and Vorafish, like voracious. And I gotta be honest, these are maybe the worst puns I have ever made. It takes a lot for me to be truly ashamed of a pun I've made, and by God, these are like the dregs. So 3Fish is the name we're sticking with. Unless anybody has a better name. If you do, please leave name suggestions in the comments below. I will love you forever. 3Fish, the gluttonous Pokemon. With its newfound weight and strength, this Pokemon returns to its mischievous and food-stealing ways. It uses its long tongue to taste its food before deciding if it's a worthy target. Now for the final line. I was originally saving these guys for a potential part 2 to this video, but I've run out of steam with this concept and I refuse to let these guys collect dust, because they are by far my favorite designs I have done for this project. While working on this whole thing, one thought kept resurfacing. Can I make the fork from Forklifter into a Pokemon? This haunted me nightly. I would lay in bed staring up at the ceiling for hours thinking up the logistics. Up to this point, I had only made a couple Pokemon based on fully designed animal characters. Designing a creature based off of a fork? It was so far out of my league as someone who, before this project, had never designed a Fakemon before. Then one night, I had an epiphany. I can do better than the fork. The fork is nothing. I can't believe I was so blinded by the prestige that would come from magically pulling a fork Pokemon out of my ass. If I just looked a little bit to the left, I would have seen the perfect Pokemon design staring me in the face. A 3-stage evolution out of a character even more iconic, even more bizarre. Are you ready for my magnum opus? Drumroll, please. Sorry. I meant drumroll peas! Let's do this. My only thought while making this creature was round, orb, round, orb. You could tell that the roundness of this creature was the only thing I cared about, because I struggled to get the circle right for like 5 minutes in real time. Besides the roundness of this creature, I knew I wanted to make it a little bug with a little bread backpack that actually is just a giant sack of meat. It's just a tasty little food source of the hypothetical fork Pokemon. Since we don't actually know what the little peas are made of in the game, I just assumed it was bread because of the burger combo you get later in the minigame. But don't you worry, all you pea lovers out there. The shiny is as green as a handful of peas. P-Pack, the pea Pokemon. P-Pack are often hunted by other Pokemon since their round bodies are filled with delicious meat. They tend to stay in groups for protection. A group of P-Pack are called a handful. I love you so much, P-Pack. You are my sweet little pea. Thank you for literally saving this entire video. I'm like genuinely losing my mind over P-Pack again. It's so good. It's so fucking good. I want him. Oh, P-Pack, my boy. Time for the middle evolution. This guy was actually the last one I drew, since I knew what I wanted the first and the third evolution to look like. So this guy is a bridge between those two cliffs. I knew roughly what I wanted when I started sketching this Pokemon, but I was having trouble translating it. My concept for this guy was camouflage. P-Pack are constantly hunted for food, so I figured its evolution would do whatever it could to hide itself. And how do you hide yourself from a carnivorous predator? By wrapping yourself in something they never eat. You know, veggies. Drawing lettuce turned out to be a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be, so it took me a while to settle on the design I liked. I also made them very sleepy since they kind of just sit around and hide all day. The beak design is actually supposed to look like a Z for snoring. I don't know, I thought it was cute. I like this little guy too. Camouflage, the hiding Pokemon. To protect itself from predator Pokemon who love the taste of meat, Camouflage hides itself in a vegetal cocoon. With this protection, they tend to sleep their days away. And now, for the finale. And what's a better way to end this evolution line than making a Pokemon based off the showstopper itself? The burger. The burger was a little bit tricky to figure out. Again, I knew what I wanted, but then I'd step back, think of the anatomy, and say to myself, hey, what the fuck? It's a crab, but its legs come out of the top bun, and its body is like a flat patty shape. Is the bun part of the body? Oh, I also gave this evolution bunny ears, and then went back and settled on the P-Pack also having cute little lettuce horn things. Which I think was a good decision. They're so cute. The yellow hands are supposed to look like the little triangles of cheese you'd see hanging on the outside of a perfect picturesque burger. But after I added the yellow, I thought that the colors were kind of boring, and I wanted to spice it up. So I changed up the legs to make them look like sweet onions. This way I could pull in another color, but it looked terrible, so I just settled back into the original palette I had going. I also tried red like tomatoes, or ketchup, but it looked gross. So gross. Get it out of here, I hate it. In the end, I settled with keeping the color palette limited by just using green, yellow, and brown. It may look a little bit lacking, but I was satisfied enough with it to call it a day. Hamburkada, the burger Pokemon. Remembering their dire childhoods, wild Hamburkada watch over P-Pack to ensure their safety. They still retain this motherly nature after being caught by trainers and often dote on them. And there you have it. My children, born from nothing but love. And a little bit of loathing. This project was a lot of fun, even if it did take me like half a year in real time to make. Maybe I'll do something like this again, but I wouldn't hold your breath. My motivation is a fickle thing, but the image of a fork Pokemon continues to haunt me nightly, even after so much time has passed. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that, please, for the love of God, play Rhythm Heaven. Please play it. I am begging you. I am on my knees. Please play it. God birthed me to carry out this one mission of trying to get as many people as I can to play this series. And I'm hoping that if enough people play it, then maybe Nintendo will make another Rhythm Heaven. Even though, in my heart of hearts, I know that's not gonna happen because, let's be honest, Nintendo, hates its fans. But I could still hold hope in my heart for a miracle to happen. Or, like, maybe they'll put Chorus Kids in Smash next. Like, please God, just give me a crumb. Give me a crumb and I'll eat for fucking years. Please, just give me a single crumb. It is enough for me. I will not starve. Anyway, it's time for me to go into hibernation. Good night.